Now, our third guest on this week's League of Ireland podcast is a huge goalkeeper, Colin McCabe of Shelbourne. How tall are you, sir?
6'5".
6'5", and a little bit. Are you going to be 6'6", or if you finish your growing?
We'll just call it as 6'5" and a little bit.
So Colin, thanks for coming in. Former Cavan Shamrocks goalkeeper as a kid, Celtic for
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Yeah. Stenhousemuir on loan, has come home, played for Bohemians, and is now number one for Shelburne, playing the last number of games and loads of clean sheets and doing well in the goal for Shels.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on. It's good to kind of get a run of games in the last couple of weeks. I think at the start I didn't expect to play. I obviously knew coming in that Dean was club captain and got goalkeeper division last year, so I knew it was going to be a tough ask, but I've put the head down, worked hard, and thankfully was given a chance to play in the cup games and then given a chance to play in the league, and it's kind of not looked back since, just take it week by week.
Yeah, a 1-0 win over Longford more recently. A bald man by the name of Conan Byrne scored the penalty. We spoke about Conan last week on the radio show and wished him the best of luck with his head shave. I think he's raised $5,000 for that, and his first goal as a baldy picked up an important 3 points because Longford are just behind in the table. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't think he wasn't long on the field, so that was a good substitution. No one slotted it away. I see him do it every week in training anyway. He likes to take a couple of penalties before the game on a Friday or Saturday, so I kind of knew that he might go that side. I think Lee Stacey was trying to put him off a little bit as well, but thankfully went into the back of the net, and like he said, we kind of hung out at the end of the game. So a big 3 points just gone clear of Longford now, and hopefully we can kind of kick on once we're back at the top now.
Yeah, it's such an interesting league, and like spoke to Neil Fenn, the Longford manager, on the podcast last week. I think it was last week, and you know, he was saying if we win, we've got a game in hand and we're close to Shels. If we lose, they're ahead of us, and Drogheda are on a good run at the moment, and you know, there's lots of other teams who he would say, you know, are still in and about it, you know, including Bray. How have you found it? And since you've been in the team, it's been a really good run of form.
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I didn't really know much about the first division. To be honest with you, I've seen in the last couple of years that one or two teams has often ran away with it, and this year there was a lot of talk about Shelbourne, the players they had signed, maybe our start at the start of the year, but like you said, there's 4 or 5 teams in there that can go and beat any team, and because it's so tight, you lose one week and you maybe draw the next week or something, you find yourself slipping down the table, and teams have opened up a little gap. So Saturday, this weekend, we've got Bray again. I think they're only maybe 3 or 4 points behind us, I think, and again we'll be looking to keep our run going and hopefully extend the gap between ourselves and Bray.
Yeah, Shels on 31 points and Bray on 25, so it's a 6-point gap. If you win, it's 9, and that would be a nice cushion. What was your first league start? Can you remember? On the spot here.
This year for Shels?
Yeah.
Against Bray, actually.
Okay, so clean sheet in that game, clean sheet against Drogheda, clean sheet against Limerick, clean sheet against Galway, lost to Cabinteely 1-0, conceded against Athlone but won, and beaten Wexford, and then 2 more clean sheets. So you've actually, you know, since you've come into goal, kept, you know, I think it's probably 70% clean sheets in your games, which is, you know, as a young goalkeeper coming in and the senior goalkeeper has been left out of the team, it's a really good period of form for you and the defence and the team, obviously, overall.
Exactly, yeah. I think we've been a little bit consistent. I think at the start of the year there could have been 1 or 2 changes in the back 4 as well, which doesn't help. You know, usually the back 4 and goalkeeper kind of stay the same as much as possible, and unfortunately I think at the start of the year we were getting punished as a team for making defensive errors, and like you said, in the last couple of games I think we've kind of cut them out, which has given me as a goalkeeper a chance to only make maybe 2 or 3 saves a game, and once I do that, you're giving yourself the best foot to keep a clean sheet, and that obviously means you only need to score 1 to win the game, which we've done I think in the last 2 weeks. We've only scored 1 goal in each game.
Apart from the obvious of saving shots and having a good back 4 in front of you, what has been the key to the defence of record being so good in recent weeks? Because it really has been, you know, you've said it, you win 1-0, you score 1 goal, should I say, you win the game, and when you're trying to get up, it's really key if you can do that, and it's just, you know, it's been a really good period of form when in the previous weeks defensively the team wasn't so strong.
Personally, I think that being 6'5", I like to come for crosses as much as I can. Personally, I think I can still improve on that. I think that comes with confidence, you know what I mean? Once the ball is flown into the air, most people often think that the goalkeeper should come for it, and I think I found myself in the last couple of games, especially being under pressure in the last maybe 10-15 minutes, especially against Longford last week, where they started flinging balls into the box, and I was confident enough in my ability to come and take it with 10 bodies in front of me and take the shoulders and all the hits. So I think, like I've said in the last couple of weeks, if teams couldn't go through us, they've tried to maybe put the ball into the box, and thankfully I've, like I said, come for a couple of crosses. The defenders are able to play that couple of yards higher. They now know that if they are high and give me space to come and dominate my 18-yard box, I will do that.
So. Nice. How old are you now?
22, just gone.
Okay. So quite young to be a goalkeeper playing in a senior team. I know we had James Talbot in a few weeks ago too, and clearly in the first division it's a little different, but to be kind of in the team and having had a run now, having had to wait to get in, being 22, I'm sure that experience being a number one at senior level for the first time, you're still learning, but it's something that I'm sure you're really enjoying.
Absolutely. I think for most of my career I probably have seen myself as a number two. At Celtic, when I first went there, I wasn't really playing when I first went over, and I played one season as number one, and then, to be honest with you, most of my time I felt myself as a number two, and that's why I went out on loan, and even last year, although I was against Shane Supple, again I was a number two. So it's nice to get a run of games, and it's nice to see that a young goalkeeper being given the chance, and also kind of, to be honest with you, taking the chance as well a little bit. So
Shane Supple last season at Bows and the season before, did you do 2.5 seasons at Bows?
I done kind of one full season, and kind of from the summer when I came home in the summer.
Okay. So Shane Supple was and would still be one of the best keepers in the league, bar his injury, and was in the PFAI team of the year last year. And you're number two, but you're training with a top class keeper and you're learning from him, but you still know come the Friday night you're too old for 19s, you're not going to play. How was that to kind of deal with? Because I'm sure the training was really good, and I'm sure he was very supportive and vice versa, but you're still knowing that he's number one and you're not.
Absolutely. I think when I first came home in the summer, initially it was just to keep fit with them, and then I went back across to the UK, and a couple of weeks later I ended up coming back and signing for Bows. And I remember at that period of time being very confident and stuff, and then come the next season I was kind of in my head, okay, right, I'm going to give this a run and try and get a couple of games. And as game goes by and week by week, you're kind of going, okay, your confidence does get affected, but at the end of the day you're training with a fantastic goalkeeper, which Sups was, and you're learning off him. But it's hard knowing coming on a Friday, it's maybe not even a toss-up that Shane was going to play most games, bar a major injury. So that was tough, and that was the kind of decision I had to make at the end of the season there last year. Okay, do I step down? Do I look for a new challenge? And that challenge was to try and play each week, whatever the team was, whatever the standard was. I wanted that challenge of being given a chance to play every Friday.
And before that at Celtic, I'm sure you worked with some really good goalkeepers too, coaches and that sort of stuff. What sort of people did you work with, as other goalkeepers at the club, and influences did they have on you when you were away? I
think when I first went in, the first person who had a massive influence was the academy goalkeeping coach, Colin McCabe. Someone who knew I was a young boy, had all these dreams, but also knew how hard it was to get to the top. And he knew that it was more than football. You had to develop as a person on and off the field. You had to grow into a man. You had to take ownership of your career. And still to this day, he'd be someone I'd have very close contact with. Then in terms of the first team goalkeepers, Fraser Forrester was probably one who I probably kind of see myself as going, okay, he's very similar. He's a very raw goalkeeper when he's, I think, up to 18, but got released by Newcastle. And he was big guy, not maybe technically the best, but could make saves. And I was kind of looking at him going, okay, how does he move in goal, and how does he operate in the gym? And he was someone who ate the gym up. He was there every day, never took a day off. And then when he obviously moved on to Southampton, Craig Gordon came in, and someone I think we are the exact same height. Obviously we all know he moved in his younger career for a record British fee of a goalkeeper, and a genuine guy. And I felt like any time I could ask him a question, I could ask him 40 questions in one training session, and he'd still have an answer for me. And I was kind of like, okay, there's a top goalkeeper I can learn off. And then the managers too, Neil Lennon would have been there when you signed, is that right? Yeah. Ronnie Dealey was there for a while, and then you would have been there you would have still been there at the start of Brendan Rodgers, would you? I think I was there for one full season, maybe a season and a half, kind of maybe. And again, all good managers, all had different philosophies, all had different ways of bringing players through, of different ethics and ideas and stuff. And Rodgers was one really who tried to create that family environment in the club. And again, obviously we knew as players, and even as kind of reserve players at that time, that he was a guy who had developed a load of young, good English players at Liverpool, and if you were given a chance, he knew you could be quite successful under him. Are the academy teams and the reserves in Celtic in the same training ground as the first team? Initially, when you go in at 16 years of age, you were at Barrowfield, which is quite close to Celtic Park, and then if you moved up to kind of the 19s kind of reserves area, you moved to the first team training ground, which was outside the city. Okay, so would you have trained much with the first team under any of those managers? For the last probably 2 years when I was at Celtic, I trained with the first team goalkeepers every day for more or less 2 years, yeah.
So the goalkeeping aside, as in the goalkeeping training aside, like training with the senior players, small-sided games, crossing and finishing, that sort of stuff, as a young goalkeeper, and having Brendan Rodgers like on the sideline, that sort of stuff, and the test that gives you, like Celtic over that period have been the top team in Scotland for how many leagues in a row have they won? You can tell me. Probably
8 in a row.
8 in a row. The Rangers fans, I love that. But like the standard of training, I'm sure, and you being probably a goalkeeper, you're 22 now, aren't you? So you would have been 20 then, 21, saving shots, trying to save shots at that level. Like, tell me more about that.
Well, yeah, the shooting drills are always quite hard. The likes of maybe Lee Griffiths, who was really, really angry when he missed the target, but you knew if he did miss the target, he was going to put the next one either top corner or bottom corner. So unless you went really early and you tried to guess by their body shape where they were going to put it, 9 times out of 10 you'd be lucky if you saved one shot.
Okay.
Even sometimes we done free kicks. There'd be Charlie Mulgrew when he was there, Paddy Roberts when he was there, near Beaton. We often had free kick challenges. It could be 10 balls, and they would say if they missed maybe 4 out of 10 that they might give you, £100 or something. So
okay, nice.
Them shooting drills were often quite long and hard, but you knew that some of the players would give you money at the end if you actually saved the shots, because they knew that they were working on themselves as well. So Moussa Dembele was another one when he came in from Fulham. Every day after training for about 15-20 minutes, he done shooting, all different types of shooting, left foot, right foot, headers, first touch, two touches, and again, he was another one who really appreciated the young keeper staying behind and doing the shooting drills with them. Yeah,
so the story of the young keeper and the senior pro pulling them aside with a bag of footballs, taking shots, is actually true, and you were the young goalkeeper.
Yeah, very much so. I would have been, at that time, I could have been out on loan, so I wasn't allowed to do too much, but that often meant I was with the first team a lot more, because the academy goalkeepers with maybe the 20s would have games on, so I would be in training with the first team a lot more, and obviously the first team goalkeepers didn't want to jump around at the end of training session, so it was often the young boy. You'd be there for maybe 20-30 minutes, but next thing you know, you'd have no lunch when you went inside, but you might have £100 in your pocket.
So you could buy a few lunches?
Exactly, you could go and treat yourself for food after training.
How much, so you made a few hundred, on these things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Could, maybe one day a week, maybe before a game, some of the players might want to practice free kicks, and to be honest with you, it was often, Charlie Mulgrew often found himself doing free kicks, and he'd often go, okay, right, 6 balls, if I score 3, you owe me £50, and if I miss 3 or maybe whatever, I'll give you £50, and there you go, you're happy enough to do it,
Okay, nice. So living in Glasgow as well, being a Catholic and playing for Celtic, and the whole Irish Rangers type of thing. I mean, I remember speaking to Danny Rodgers a couple of years ago, playing for Aberdeen at the time. I think it was Aberdeen, or it could have been on loan somewhere. I remember him telling me what the Rangers fans were shouting at him when he was playing in goal at Ibrox. And I know you never played for the Celtic first team against Rangers, but just being in the city and being a Celtic player and that sort of stuff, how was that as a young, I was nearly going to say young dub, as a young Irish person from Cavan playing for Celtic, and the whole kind of Rangers rivalry and scenario?
I remember, so I went in January because I turned 16 in January, and the Youth Cup final under 17s in that May was held at Partick Thistle ground, and I was expecting it to be maybe a couple of hundred people there. I think there was something like 9,000 or 10,000 people at the game, police everywhere, massive horses and all this, and that was my first kind of introduction to a Celtic Rangers game.
Were you playing?
No, I was on the bench for that one. I had my cup final the next year, that was actually at Celtic Park, and I think it was in front of 12 or 13,000. So you quickly found that there is a massive hatred between the two clubs, massive rivalry. But walking down the street on any given day, we were told not to wear Celtic stuff. We were told, if a Celtic fan comes up to you and asks you for a picture or whatever, obviously oblige, be nice. But on the opposite side, if a Rangers fan gives you a bit of a stick or whatever it is, just keep your head down and just keep walking, And 9 times out of 10, you didn't really get too much trouble. You might get stick at a game, and if you went on loan and there was Rangers fans maybe there who recognised you, they might give you a stick, but it wasn't too bad, to be honest. Were
you on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at that time, and were you kind of warned and told, be careful, keep your account on private, be careful who you accept and what you say and stuff?
I remember I was on Twitter at the time, and I can't remember the real story, but every Celtic academy player was made to actually delete their Twitter.
Okay.
So I was kind of disappointed. I think I had 4,000 or 5,000 followers at the time or something, and had to delete my account. But again, you're just being kind of told, if you do post something maybe on Twitter or maybe now Instagram or whatever, that's just be careful in what you say. Don't invite abuse onto yourself, or just be careful what you post and stuff.
That's a shame your Twitter account was just taken off. You would have had the blue tick soon and you were all of a sudden deleted.
I think I have 400 or 500 now, so.
Okay, and was that was obviously a decision made by someone in Celtic to go, listen, we just don't want to open our young players up to the possibility of Rangers fans, other fans, even Celtic fans to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You're a goalkeeper, you let in a bad goal, your inbox is full of people having a go at you, like.
Exactly, and I think, especially at that age, you know, you might play a good game, you might look yourself up on Twitter and see what people are saying. But again, for maybe us Irish who are over there, there's very few things to do. You might find yourself back in the digs and you might look yourself up on Twitter or whatever, and you read all these bad comments. So it could have been something along those lines that they were looking to maybe stop or something. But I just remember turning up the training, and the first thing they said is, right, everybody in this room, delete your kind of profiles on Facebook and Twitter. And I didn't delete my Facebook because obviously my family's back home, so I wanted to keep that one, so I obliged to delete my Twitter.
So you are a Celtic underage player, you're training with the first team every day, and you kind of realise that maybe I'm not going to play for the first team and maybe I'm going to have to look elsewhere, and you had a loan to Stenhouse. That was a loan, wasn't it? It wasn't a permanent deal?
Yeah, a loan for, I went for 6 months and then I went for the whole season, the following season.
So when do you come to the decision, the conclusion that you're going to leave Celtic full time and come home, having been there for 4.5 years?
To be honest with you, I had 1 year left on my contract, and my agent was kind of thinking ahead, trying to be productive, and I spoke to the gaffer Brendan Rodgers and academy director and goalkeeping coaches and all that, and they're kind of like, look, we've came to the decision that we are going to let you go, and obviously there's nothing you can do about it. You can't beg them to keep you there, but we've just got to try and hope for the best, move on, take what you've learnt. And obviously I did come home. I'm obviously happy now where I am at, balancing both football and maybe more things in my life that I've got going on rather than just full-time football.
Yeah, explain to those watching and listening about that, because you're in college and you're doing a bit of work and you're not just playing football now, and that is something that a lot of lads have to do when they come back, but they realise very quickly, well, this is actually cool, that I'm actually college in the daytime, football in the night time, and lots of other things going on that isn't just the tunnel of football in the UK. Absolutely.
I think now I'm obviously playing football in the evenings, college full time. I'm now doing a bit of coaching as well, and you see your family a bit more, you interact, you do probably a lot more than just eat, sleep, repeat football like when you're on a full-time basis, like, you know, especially in the UK anyway. So now the kind of part-time, probably you have more of a balanced life, you still obviously work hard and your ambition is football, but you do have more balanced life and stuff, like, and you've got more opportunities going on in the background.
What were the Celtic Rangers games like to be at in Celtic Park, and were you ever at any in Ibrox?
Never been at any in Ibrox, probably too scared to go there, I'd say. But no, I was at 1 or 2 at Celtic Park, and it was very, very good, yeah. Very, very good. Just noise for 90 plus minutes. I think one of the games I actually did go to, it finished 1-1, and actually when the Rangers player scored, I think it was Clint Hill maybe scored in 80th something minute, the place went so quiet and all you could hear was Rangers for the next 10 minutes. So that was a kind of good environment as well, because probably one of the first times I heard the Celtic fans be quiet, and Rangers took over probably for 5 minutes at Celtic Park. But no, they're very, very good atmospheres.
So when you look now and you see Brendan Rodgers as manager of Leicester, and you see Neil Lennon back at Celtic, and you see some of your former teammates still there winning leagues, 8 leagues in a row, and others elsewhere in other clubs and doing well, is there like a regret? Is there, you know, you're obviously very, very happy to kind of know them and that all of those are doing well, and you're doing well, you know, in your own respect here, but what's your feelings when you're seeing where they've gone and where you are?
Obviously, look, there is a little bit of regret, like, you know what I mean, you go over chasing the dream, you play with certain boys, and Kieran Tierney was one who was on my age group, and I brought him to training for 2 or 3 years before he started to learn how to drive, and you're kind of going, look, that's small world kind of thing where one boy is given a yes, one boy is given a no, and one goes on to become one of the best young left backs in the world, and you're kind of going, okay, what could have been? But I don't think you can look and regret. You've just got to keep moving forward, and I suppose that happens a lot more than any other industry in the kind of football industry, but you've just got to keep looking forward and accepting every new challenge that comes your way.
Now, Colin McCabe, you ready to be nervous?
I don't know about that now, why?
I'm going to come to watch you play on Saturday.
Oh, God.
Because I've just realised that your game is at 3 o'clock away to Bray on the seaside.
It is indeed, yeah. Hopefully it's dry weather as well.
Because I'm working at Rovers in Derry that night in the Premier. But
okay.
I always say this, I love being able to go to First Division games, and because most games are on a Friday at the same time, I can't because I have to work at the Premier games. That's why I go to Longford quite often. But I've just realised that this game is at 3 o'clock in Bray on Saturday, which hopefully the weather's nice, and it's a big game for both teams, but bit of weather, get the dart out and go and watch the game.
Well, hopefully that's a good omen now that you're going to come on Saturday.
Yeah, that's Bray against Shells, which is at 3 o'clock. At 6:30, it's Limerick against Galway in the Markets Field. And the other games in the First Division all take place at 7:45. Also on Saturday, because of course Ireland-Denmark is on Friday night, it's Cabinteely against Cove, Drogheda against Athlone, and Longford-Wexford are the games in the First Division. And for Shells, Collie, finally it's just about keep going, keep winning games up to the break, take a week off, and that kind of favourites tag is now looking likely that, you know, it's deserved, because after a mixed enough start, it's top of the table now, some good performances, but you still know there's still teams chasing you down, and there's a long way to go, even though with the way this First Division is, you're going to play 27 games, so after this weekend and next weekend you've only got like 12 games left after the break, so it then becomes almost the last series in the run-in. Like. Yeah,
absolutely. I think look, without throwing too many cliches out there, I think it is at the moment just one game at a time. Obviously Bray is the next one. Ideally we'd love to get 6 out of 6 points come the break, be hopefully sitting on top, and then push on, and obviously the last 10 games or whatever it is. And look, obviously the aim is to get automatically promoted, so let's just hope keep going like that.
No cliches, but let's take it one game at a time. I want that banned from a podcast. It's going to be a tough game, one game at a time. We have to play our best. I suppose you have to say. You're not going to say we're going to win 7-0.
Well, hopefully that's the only cliche that's in there.
Colin McCabe, thanks a million.
Thanks very much.